So I've been talking a lot about the defense during this fall camp, but what about the offense? Are they starting to get a little complacent?
You are Locked On Trojans, your daily podcast on the USC Trojans, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Fight on, everyone. I'm your host, Mark Holkin, and thank you for making Locked On USC your first listen every day. Whether you're watching me on YouTube or wherever you like to download your podcast, we are free. I appreciate your support. You can show your appreciation, and it means a lot to the show. If you're watching on YouTube, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button. We're getting close to 4,000 subscribers. Who wants to be number 4,000? And when you see that thumbs up, smash it. Smash it on the ground. It means everything that you don't know. And I don't want you to miss one episode of Locked On USC. Hit that bell notification button 5 times a week, Monday through Friday. And this episode is sponsored by LinkedIn. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnCollege. Terms and conditions do apply. So we often hear defenses are typically ahead of the offense when teams start practicing. Whether it's spring, fall camp, doesn't matter. The guys on defense seem to always have that extra gear, be a step ahead when you're looking at the team's overall development. Well, we're heading into mock game week. You can see that on the rundown. We're going to talk about that in the second segment. I'm going to take a different look, a little bit of a unique approach to mock game week. But first, heading into USC's mock game week, which is basically a dress rehearsal. Caleb Williams agrees that the defense is ahead of the offense right now. And this could be complete team fluffing, building up the defensive confidence, because we've been hearing it from the coaching staff and we're hearing it from a lot of the players. However, following practice last Thursday, one of USC's superheroes, Superman, said it's true. This is what Caleb Williams said after Thursday's practice. Quote, the linebackers were flying around making plays, whether it was sideline to sideline, filling the gaps. Williams said the defensive line, they've been balling this camp. He also said that the defense has been making plays. And not just, when he said they're making plays, he said they're not just taking advantage of the offensive mistakes. Look, you've heard me mention it multiple times. Caleb is one of the biggest ultimate competitors you're going to find out there. I mean, it's why he told Riley, it's literally why he told Lincoln Riley he was going to stay in the conference championship game, when hindsight says it would probably have been better had he stepped aside. I mean, the guy even hates losing a point to Mason Cobb in a friendly game of pickleball during Pac-12 Media Day. So what I mean is, Caleb doesn't toss around superlatives and compliments easily. You got to earn it with him. So he understands how beneficial the improved play from USC's defense is to the program on the whole. Quote, it's been making us better as an offense and as a team. It's been fun to be a part of it. And another thing that Caleb talks about is how the defense has been really vocal at times, chirping, bragging about their success that they're having during practice. And because Caleb likes to talk just as much trash on and off the field, this is what else he said. It makes it a little bit more fun for me regarding the chirping from the defenders. To be able to go out there and have a defense, whether it's linebackers, D-line, safeties, wanting to come talk trash to me after a big play, it makes practice a lot more fun. And ultimately, it should make games a lot more fun as well. When they get out in games, it just shows a lot more confidence in your ability and what you can go out there and do. So it sounds like the defense is not only talking the talk, they're also walking the walk. And you have to be able to walk before you can talk. So we'll see. What I would love is for any of the, I want Caleb and Mason, somebody on defense to be mic'd up during these practices, even if they have to put the bleep button on there. I think it would be hysterical. I want to hear some of the trash talking. This is where we really miss Travis Dye. So if the defense is ahead of schedule and they are causing challenges for USC's offense, that's great. Then what's it going to take for the offense to start asserting itself, winning a session or two? Quote, offensive-wise, we just need to get better, and it's not the huge things like us lining up wrong or things like that. This is Caleb Williams talking more after Thursday's practice last week. It's the small things, small penalties, getting behind the sticks, stuff like that. Just being consistent is the most important part. And that starts at the head of it, which is with me and the center and us being on the same page and making sure we're doing the right things as leaders of the offense, but also as leaders of the team, end quote. So let's explore that. What did Caleb really mean by that? Look, I use the word complacency. I came up with that. I'm not sure that word is even in either Caleb or Justin's vocabulary. Starting center Justin Dietich. So let's just ditch that theory. USC, the leaders, they're not being complacent. So I think what Caleb was really saying is that the offense has room to be even better. And I'm not just talking about better than they were last season. He's talking about what they can be better than how they're practicing right now. And let's be honest, much better than what they've shown so far in the 2 weeks is probably going to change the narrative that the defense was winning. There's no way, and if they are, that's great, but there's no way USC's defense should be able to control USC's offense. But again, from the way Caleb spoke, it sounds like the O-line is still, again, I'm reading between the lines, trying to interpret what he really meant. What I think he meant was the offensive line is still trying to find its timing and get their communication ironed out. Again, quote, the little things, so they're not playing behind the sticks, end quote. So I guess one positive, they're lining up right. That's a good thing. And again, while it's great that the defense is ahead of schedule and they're being disruptive to the offense, that should be music to everyone's ears. Still, I want to know how much of it is because the offense is not being consistent. And until proven otherwise, I'm going to give Caleb Williams the benefit of the doubt. The defense has come a long way. Because I've heard this from a few different sources that the defensive line, they're legit this year. This is behind the scenes, off the record, from folks that like Caleb Williams, they don't toss around BS to me. If they believe it, it's the real deal. And they weren't talking about just the transfers either. So let's be honest. USC's defense has seen and knows USC's playbook. Okay? This is where we're at in practice. They know snap count. They know players' tendencies. I mean, these are the guys, the team. They eat, they train, they sleep together. They know the playbook. So this is probably why the defense has seen enough of the offense to know this is what's coming. That's what that player is going to do. This is where I need to be. And this is why we look better than the offense right now. Look, if Caleb Williams and Justin Dietich can be like Kobe and Pau Gasol used to be for the Lakers, the offense's consistency is going to be just fine. I think everybody agrees with that, right? We know how good Kobe and Pau were when they played together. I anticipate the same from Caleb and Justin. These days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business, and you want to be 100% certain that you have access to the best qualified candidates available. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs is going to help you find the right people for your team faster, and they're going to do it for free. As easy it is to use LinkedIn to find a job, guess what? It's also just as easy to create a free job using LinkedIn Jobs. Once you add your job listing to your own profile, you're going to add that purple hashtag hiring frame, and that's going to spread the word that you and your business are hiring. LinkedIn Jobs is going to provide you simple tools like screening questions, and that's going to make it super easy to focus on the candidates with just the right skills and experiences so you can quickly prioritize who you'd like to interview and hire. Recruiting the right person for your team means a better product. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus the leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnCollege. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnCollege. That way you can post your job for free. Terms and conditions do apply. I mentioned in the first segment that, and this is probably the perfect way to transition, that it's mock game week for USC. Fall camp is technically over. These final 2 weeks, you start with mock game week, and then you move into actual game week. And what is it? What is that term, mock game week? And why would anybody want to intentionally try and deceive or hide the truth from anybody? Mocking has two different definitions. One, you want to imitate, and that's what USC is going to do this week. They're going to go through and pretend different types of scenarios that's going to prepare them for actual game week. So beginning this week, Monday's practice, essentially they're going to do everything that they would do next week as they get ready for San Jose State on August 26th. If you're watching this episode of Locked on USC Monday morning, first thing, 12 more days. Almost there. And again, I'll say it again. Technically, camp is over. And now the cast of characters, it's their dress rehearsal time, a simulation. And what happens this week is they're going to go from a game plan perspective. Each day is structured like it was game week. The staff is going to go over the depth charts. The position groups are going to hold their meetings. And literally everything is scripted right down to the minute. Right up to the point where the team bus arrives at the Coliseum. They get off. They walk down the peristyle. Position groups start forming those soul circles. Words of encouragement. We appreciate everybody, yada, yada. If you ever played on a team, you know what I'm talking about. And that's right before they head off to the locker room. Essentially, this next week of pretend and preparation is for the real thing. And that'll end with, on Friday, Salute to Troy. It's back. It's the first, we'll call it the first official tailgate of the season, and that's for the fans. The team will get a chance to kind of feel that vibe. It's a way of breaking the fans into them before they look up into the stands and see them. And then before you know it, the Coliseum is going to open the doors. It'll be a week later, and everyone will see if all that preparation was worth the wait. So everything goes from pretending this next week, even though they're prepping, they're literally pretending that this is game week. They have to have that type of intensity. If you remember last week when we spoke to Lincoln Riley, he said, it's go time. And he was referring to last week. He hadn't even transitioned yet. So let's switch lanes regarding the season. I kind of explained to you what the team will do this upcoming week. This is going to be this season will be USC's last chance to mock their opponents. So we're going to take mock game week and we're going to turn it into now what the Trojans need to do to make sure that they're the ones doing the mocking and they're not being made fun of anymore. Because imagine the Trojans failing to win the last Pac-12 conference championship. That also means they're probably not going to make the playoffs either. And I will guarantee you, USC will get ridiculed and mocked like you've never seen. Because while there are plenty of people higher up the food chain that we can make fun of for the way the Pac-12 kind of crumbled, there's still way too many people who hold USC responsible for the collapse. And they're going to pounce with every opportunity that's out there. Remember, the reason why USC chose to leave the conference was because they were tired of being mocked and laughed at by the rest of the country. Let alone some of the West Coast programs that still need USC. I'll never admit it, but we know it's the truth. I don't have to tell anyone that losing to Washington or Oregon this year, both programs that are willing to accept pennies on the dollar to stay in the Trojan shadow, will be a terrible look. Horrible. In July of last year, everyone knew USC and UCLA were leaving. Everyone across the country and who follows college football seemed to understand this. Everyone except the people in charge of the conference, or at least they were pretending not to. I don't know whether they believe that it was Governor Newsom and the UC Regents were going to block UCLA's move, and that was going to save the league. Who knows? Or whether it was Commissioner George Kliavkoff believing that he was winning the bidding war with the TV networks and his war of words with the Big 12. Every single decision that was made, it ended up being mocked, ridiculed, laughed at. USC had had enough of that. This is why they're out of there. And it's why they're stuck with a 14 conference. The Pac-12 with USC probably had an estimated value worth maybe 40 to 45 million per school. Maybe even 50 million. Maybe. Without USC and that LA market, again, the conference was worth bupkis, nothing. Without that LA market, George Kliavkoff should have accepted the $30 million offer that ESPN showed up with last year. Everyone knew, and I'm talking about ESPN and Fox. They had zero incentive to pay any more money without that LA market. So let's not pretend that the folks in the media, the Pac-12 members, some of them, most of them, all of them, fans across the country, and even some Trojan fans haven't been mocking the Trojan football program for way too long. Or at least the ones who consider themselves Trojan fans. The laughter of USC ended real abruptly last year when USC ended up in the conference championship game and had that 8th Heisman. This is what everybody needs to understand. USC is back. It's time for USC to start mocking the programs that they're leaving behind. Because maybe now those programs will remember that there's a reason why they have to take less than what they think they're worth. And that includes Washington and Oregon, who are literally, they're taking that same dollar amount that ESPN came to the Pac-12 with last year, That's what they're going to make this year. $30 million. It's often said, he who laughs last laughs best. Well, everyone laughed, everybody danced, everybody mocked USC when they were hit with NCAA sanctions. Back then, no one cared about how a damaged USC brand would affect the health and the welfare of the Pac-12. Guess what? Starting this week, the Trojans have one final march toward that glory as a member of the Pac-12 conference. And they're just 2 weeks away from doing it for real. So the question is, how's anybody going to mock a USC team that wins a national championship before they shut the doors to the Pac-12 conference forever? So imagine you were stuck on a deserted island or one of those Naked and Afraid locations. I don't know how many people watch that show. Anytime I'm bored and I'm flipping channels, whenever I come across it, I put down the remote control. One of those things that just fascinates me. So, and by the way, if we were going to put you on a naked and afraid location or a deserted island, don't worry. Everyone is going to be dressed and they'll have shoes. But let's say you were going to be a cast member on USC's Survivor Island. And you had to pick a player from this roster to team up with. Who would you pick? Who would be your survivor? Who would you choose to help you survive? And you got to be smart about this. I mean, which one is going to give you the best chance of seeing civilization again? I mean, you got to eat, right? Who knows how to hunt? Who knows how to turn and take undrinkable water into sustainable water? Who knows how to build a hut or, something to protect you from the environment? And then ultimately, who has that, bigger quotes if you're not watching, you can't kill me no matter what attitude? That's the person you want to be teamed up with. And when you look at the roster, it's not that easy to pick one person. But I'm going to go over a handful of names here. I have a feeling Solomon Tuliaupupu has to be up for consideration. I mean, you want to talk about a warrior's mentality and someone who does not understand the word quit or what it means to quit? I know he'll find a way to survive on Survivor's Island. But if it meant his survival, he probably would make me his last meal. I kid. Kind of. I've seen Solo with that intense look. I want him on my team. I don't want to be playing against him. There's another guy who I'd probably want around if I'm stuck in a bad spot and I need someone with ingenuity. Miller Moss. He's kind of like the professor from Gilligan's Island. Smart as hell, but he can also hold his own physically. So there's two guys who are probably going to be at the top of my list. I got a question, or maybe you have a question. Are you allowed to bring a pet? If so, I would think having your own bear would kind of be cool, right? What about Annie Hansen? I've told the story before how one day she went running, and before she knew it, she had run almost a marathon. She was trying to keep up with the coaching staff, and before you knew it, she had ran a long way. So not only does she have the tenacity to not quit and just keep going and going and going, I also know things are going to be really well organized. And that's probably something and someone you want around when you're in a situation where things aren't very organized. Bottom line, who is the craziest person on the team that has that no fear factor whatsoever. I'm thinking that's probably the person. I don't know. Who is it? Who would you choose if you were on USC's Survivor Island and you had to pick one person to help you survive? I threw out a few names. Who would you pick? All right. That's it for this episode of Locked on USC. I will be back with another episode tomorrow, and that's going to bring us one day closer to the season. We'll see if I have any recruiting information. I might, because there is some stuff coming up. We might even get a commitment this month. We'll see. What everybody needs to be looking forward to, that game against San Jose State. And the other thing you need to be looking forward to, tomorrow's episode of Locked on USC. So until then, everyone, you know what to do.